Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. So, last week I got an amazing question when I mentioned that I no longer have a huge to do list hanging over my head. And the question was, how? How on earth do you declutter tasks and shorten that never ending to do list? So, that is what I'm going to be talking about today. And I will be honest, I really had to think about this because it has been quite some time that I've been living with this new reality. So I really had to think back about what choices I made and how I've changed things so significantly to be in this position right now. And I'm going to give you some tangible steps that you can take to get there too. So let me back up and say that I decided I no longer wanted to be busy all the time. I actually like being busy because I like being productive, but I wanted that busyness to be tasks that I was choosing to do, that I felt good about. I didn't want to be busy just to be busy anymore. I didn't want that life for myself. And part of the motivation to declutter and organize my home, which I talk about all the time, that led into creating the membership, was really not only about trying to declutter my physical space, but to stop feeling like I always had stuff to do. And I realized during that process of decluttering my house that I would have to actively declutter my to-do list, that it wouldn't necessarily just happen for me. So here are a few of the components that have allowed me to be in this space now where I feel like I have a very manageable to-do list. So I have really strong routines in place. I have eliminated the need to make decisions throughout my day, throughout my home. And just the very nature of that has allowed me to open up so much mental space. A big part of the stress of our to-do lists is, of course, the time it takes to do the items on it, but it's also the energy that it takes from us stressing about what's on the list and trying to figure out the logistics of when we were going to get them done. So I had opened up so much mental space and energy that it allowed me then to channel that into getting things done. I also spend zero time sorting through clutter, looking for things that I need, replacing things. I spend zero time or energy on that, literally zero. So it's easier for me to get things done. So I want to share a few more of the tangible things that you can do right now today, because you might be thinking like, okay, well, that's great, but it's going to take me a while to get my house to the point where I'm not living in clutter, where I have a system for everything. And that is true. So here are some things you can do today. The first is you can decide that not everything on your to-do list has to get done. Some of those pending projects or other things that I thought I should do that I just found myself never getting to, I just decided were never, ever, ever going to get done. So I crossed them off my list for good. I just said it's never happening. But every time I think I should do it or I think about doing it and I don't do it, that's wasting time and energy. So just cross them off your list for good. Now, there may not be a ton of things that occupy that category, but even if there are one or two that you can just say, this is who I am. I thought maybe I'd be this person and I would get this certain thing done. It's just that's not who I am. It's never going to happen. Just take that pressure off yourself so that you can open yourself up to get done the things that you really want to do. The other thing you can do, and obviously this is a little bit more complicated now being in the pandemic, but I decided to invest in outsourcing. I got more help around the house. I really tried to outsource all the things that I didn't have to be the one doing. So I hired an amazing woman to help out more around the house, including doing laundry, doing some cooking, packing the kids' lunches, even picking my kids up from the bus one day a week so that I could extend my workday, and even doing some basic errands. So we did have to make sacrifices to make that happen. We did, but it was so worth it to me because as much as you can reduce your to-do list, there are things that we just have to do on a daily or weekly basis, but do you have to be the one doing them? If there are things that you can outsource, I would really urge you to think about if you can do it and what other sacrifices financially you might be willing to make to allow that to happen. I also offloaded some errands onto my husband. So oftentimes our partners want to be more helpful, but they literally don't know what to do. And we tell ourselves this story that says, it'll just be easier if I do it myself. It'll just be quicker if I do it myself. It'll get done right if I do it myself. I know that. But the truth is, if we can teach our partners the exact way we want something to be done, and then give ourselves and them a little bit of grace to do it their own way, it is amazing how much stress that alleviates. I talk about this in the membership all the time, but it is not only one person's job in the house to declutter and organize and maintain. Everybody who lives in the home has to do it, but oftentimes we have to lead that effort. So embrace being the leader of that role and seeing what you can offload to your partner if you have one. Another big shift was to do things in the moment. So if a task came up, I would literally schedule it into my calendar so I could immediately get it out of my head and relieve myself of the mental pressure of having to do it. So what would that look like? Well, maybe I would put an appointment to leave to pick up my kids 30 minutes earlier in the day so that I could get a particular errand done near the bus stop. But as tasks would pop up, I would literally schedule them in as if they were an appointment so I could get them done so that the list wouldn't build. Or if that's not realistic for you, batch some time on the weekend to get it all done. So I never let things pile up anymore because as they come in, I schedule them in my calendar and get them done. So sure, there is a ramp up period where you get to the point of having to set aside these chunks of time to batch things if your to-do list feels like it's super long. But once you get on top of it and then you stay on top of it, it's like the same thing with our physical clutter. You never are having to have these massive moments of having to get a ton done. And the last thing that I did was started ordering as much as I could online. Now, I know our whole lives are online now because of the pandemic, but I made that shift prior to that because I didn't want to spend any time having to go into a store when I didn't want to. And because I had hired some additional help, I had someone who could drop off returns for me at the UPS store or wherever if I needed to send something back. So the stakes just felt lower. If I ordered something that I didn't love and it didn't work out, it can always be returned. So in some ways, the specifics of how I did it don't matter as much because you might find your own process that works for you. But I can tell you that committing to being less busy is the start. It is the place to start. And then putting actions in place that align with that is the only way you are going to get there. And in case you need to be told, you deserve to have that and to feel that way and to be less busy. You deserve that and you can have it. But it really starts with committing to being less busy, seeing which things you can just say, this is never going to get done, seeing where you can outsource, and then making the decision every day or every week that you are just going to get things done. You don't wait until you're in the mood. You don't wait until you feel like it. You don't wait until it's easy. You schedule it in and you just get it done. And then what you'll realize is you will live in a place where you just have a very minimal to-do list. I have a work to-do list of things that need to get done, but my personal to-do list is really very minimal because now it's just part of like our habits and routine. So I don't feel like there's big things hanging over my head. And when those things do crop up, we schedule them in and we get them done. So I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what resonated in the comments below. Let me know if you have tips of your own. Good morning to everyone popping on saying good morning. I'm so glad that you're all here. And I hope that you have an amazing day and an amazing week. And I will see you back here next week where I am going to be talking all things move-in, how you manage and facilitate a whole house move-in. So I hope you will join me for that. See you then.